We are talking about 5 hidden fears you probably struggle with as a fearful avoidant. I am Pauline and I am so happy you are here because there are some fears that are more obvious. The fear of making mistakes, the fear of somebody getting angry with you, the fear of messing up. Those you probably are very aware of. You're working on them, you're healing them. But there are also some hidden fears, and with that, I mean the ones that are very present in your life, but you are not very aware that they're even fears because some of them are just a little bit deeper laying and driving some of your other fears. It's not called the fearful avoidant attachment style for no reason, but that doesn't mean that you have to live with these fears for the rest of your life. I want to make that very, 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 very clear. We can absolutely heal this because all it is that it's driven by some root causes. And when you heal the root causes that are driving these fears, you will not be as fearful. Some of the things that are now feel like life and death things, like making mistakes or somebody getting angry with you, can absolutely be a pretty much a non-issue in a matter of months or definitely in years. And that feels magical and very normal in the same breath because um, all it means is right now you have certain associations around people getting angry or making mistakes, and when you release those and you release the root causes and the drivers, it's just not that big of a deal anymore. You might not even be able to imagine it right now, but it absolutely is possible. And so I just want to talk about the 5 hidden fears in this video so that you're more aware of it, so that you know that you can heal this too and you don't have to deal with this for the rest of your life either. The first one is the fear that you can't handle life in general. And this was a fear that was just so present and so normal to me that I wasn't even very aware of it. I think I kind of assumed that everybody had that everybody felt overwhelmed with life and felt like they couldn't handle life. But that wasn't true. And now that I've come to a point where I can say I healed the fearful avoidant attachment style, which means that I'm not triggered anymore in the way that I used to get triggered. Like, even if I get triggered, it's maybe 1% of what it was. And I love life. I look forward to my life. I trust people. It's not that I'm at a perfect place. It's just that the triggers that are so present in the fearful avoidant attachment style are just not at all present anymore, or just very slight. So what I mean with can't handle life, I just felt overwhelmed with life all the time. It felt like I was always doing things wrong. I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't enough. And life just felt hard and felt like a struggle. And what I realized is that one of the things that drove that the most was that I was afraid of handling big feelings. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to handle certain feelings. So when you strip it all down, the things that you're afraid of, what you're actually afraid of are the feelings that are attached to it. And so when you start to have more trust in yourself, that you can actually handle big feelings, and that those feelings don't have the meaning that you assign to them, which means when you are feeling fear or tension, that means everything is going to go wrong, and it kind of becomes like a life and death thing. When you know that that's not true, and you've really healed to the point where you can feel fear and it's not that big of a deal, it becomes so much easier to feel like you can handle life, and life becomes less overwhelming and less exhausting. So you are afraid of those big feelings because you've learned that you're not to allow those feelings. You're supposed to suppress them and you're supposed to manage them. So with the fearful avoidant, you've probably noticed you do something that I call emotional management. You just manage your emotions constantly. You should be feeling this and you shouldn't be feeling that. And you should only feel a little bit of this and you should feel a lot of that all of the time. Like you have to be in love all of the time, or you're not allowed to feel tension, because that would mean that the relationship isn't right and you have to break up. So you're constantly trying to manage emotions, suppressing them, trying to hold on to them, managing so that you feel in a perfect way. And when you are taught to not allow feelings, that doesn't mean that the feelings don't come. That's what you wish would happen, but that's not what happens. They still come, but you feel so much resistance to it and so much fear around it because of all the meaning that you've assigned to it. And so then it becomes overwhelming. But it's not the feelings themselves that are overwhelming. It's the resistance that you feel to the feelings. It's the meaning that you assign to the feelings. It's the consequences that you are afraid will happen when you feel these feelings, and those are not truth. So when I learned to feel my feelings, to be able to handle big feelings, and that was just healing a lot of associations around feelings, meanings to feelings, and the root causes and drivers of certain beliefs around feelings, I noticed that I was able to handle life so much better. And of course, it also very much happens or helps if you're not afraid to make mistakes anymore, if you're not really afraid of people getting angry with you anymore. That also makes life so much less overwhelming. So I felt completely powerless, which is also, by the way, a very important part of life feeling either overwhelming or not. When I started feeling more powerful, I knew that, I could handle pretty much everything or anything. And if you would have said that to me in the crash state of the fearful avoidant attachment style, that sentence alone would have triggered me and would have made me scared, because I felt like if I could handle anything, everything would happen. But it's the opposite. When you can handle everything, you kind of automatically make sure that you take measures in order to make sure that certain things just don't happen. Like when I was powerless, I was also very broke. We had no money whatsoever. And I was just so afraid that something would happen and we would have like a financial crisis. And if I then would have thought I can handle anything, I would have thought, that means that, something really bad is going to happen and we're not going to survive. But actually, when I started believing I can handle anything and I am powerful, I made sure we had financial buffers. I made sure that our finances were just much more stable and safe. So that obviously makes life less overwhelming. So the fact that you may feel or believe that you can't handle life, it's not true. And it has a lot to do with feeling your feelings and healing the associations around those feelings. The second hidden fear is that you won't be able to keep it up. And what I mean by that is, maybe you recognize that when you're doing something good, like you're feeling good, or you've started something that you enjoy or that you're good at, all of a sudden you get so much resistance to doing that thing. You kind of crash back down. You sabotage, you stop, you find a way to not do it anymore. And that can be in a relationship too. You can start a relationship being very much in love and you want this relationship to work and you're putting all your time and effort and energy into it, and all of a sudden you're noticing that your feelings shut down. You start having doubts. You start having negative thoughts about your partner. And before you know it, that relationship comes to an end. And what could happen is that this hidden fear gets triggered, that you won't be able to keep it up. And it means feeling good or performing at a certain point, but it also means not being perfect, because as a fearful avoidant, you seek certainty and security in the extremes. And so everything for you to feel safe has to be extreme. So when you're in a relationship, when you're starting a relationship, you have to be extremely in love. You have to be extremely passionate. You have to, know extremely well that it's certain that you want to be with this person forever. And then when you have such high standards for yourself, because this also pertains to anything you do in work or career or hobby or wanting to build a business, whatever it is, when you have such high standards that it has to be perfect, that it has to be 100%, that you have to be certain, that you have to always keep the same level of whatever it is, that is almost undoable. No human being can do that. And so what you then have is what I call the consistency crash. You have so much resistance to having to keep that up because it's undoable, but also because you're very afraid that there will come a time where you won't be able to do all of this. And that makes sense. When the standards are too high, you will burn out. It won't be attainable to keep it up forever. So where you think you have to keep it up, whatever it is, at 100%, securely attached people will know that, on average 70 to 80% is beautiful, is perfect enough. It's more than necessary to be able to have a very loving relationship, to build a successful business, to be very, very good at your work. But you think you have to keep it up at 100%, and that just is not possible. And so you are afraid that you will mess up somewhere down the line, and that's when all those sabotaging mechanisms kind of kick in. And it feels safer to preemptively end it because you're pretty sure that you will mess it up down the road and you won't be able to handle that pain, and not be able to handle that you may hurt other people with that. So that's the consistency crash, that you begin something with so much intention of just keeping it up, but then because you feel like you have to be consistent, that's the reason you crash. Whereas a securely attached person knows that nothing is ever 100% consistent. You will never be at a 100% standard. It just is not attainable. You need rest. You need a little bit of leeway and wiggle room to be human. And so where you expect yourself to be at 100% all the time, a securely attached person will probably know that, you kind of go up and down around the 80%, and that is completely fine. So that's the consistency crash. And it also kind of keeps you in the proving and performing loop, which means that you feel like you always have to prove that you're good enough, that you're worthy enough. And that is exhausting in and of itself. And so it makes sense that it's hard to keep that up, because you don't want to keep up having to prove that you're worthy. And then when you have proven that you're worthy by, doing something major, because that's usually how you do it, then you have to keep performing to keep it. And that's what you may have when you're in a relationship, that you have to prove your worth by, being an amazing partner and being completely present and being very romantic to prove that you are worthy. And then you feel like you have to keep performing at that level to be consistent. And that is just unattainable. And so you believe that when you won't be able to keep that up, everything will fall apart anyway. And so, those sabotaging mechanisms come up. So that is a hidden fear, that you won't be able to keep it up, whatever that is. Then the third one is somebody finding out you're not worthy, and then things being taken away from you. For the longest time, this was a fear that I had, that I was so blind to. I call that baseline blindness. When something is so familiar to your system, it's almost like a baseline, and therefore you're blind to it. So I could not figure out for the life of me why I was so afraid to just let things be good. I had an amazing relationship, still have that. And I kept feeling myself pushing him away and sabotaging it. And whenever other beautiful things happened, I just noticed myself not really being able to allow that. I kept trying to prove my worth. I kept trying to perform. But even when I did that, there was just this fear that was underlying it. And it took me the longest time to figure out that I was so afraid that someone would find out I'm not worthy and would take it away. Because that's what I'd experienced as a child, and you may have experienced that too. That your parent was the judger of you being worthy of something or not. And it wasn't until I addressed this and healed this that I could just allow good things and just enjoy them, instead of getting very anxious and feeling a lot of unrest around having beautiful things. It's that amazing song by Benson Boone, right? Please God, don't take away these beautiful things. It's a human fear for sure, but I think fearful avoidants have that tenfold, because a lot of the upbringing is around, being worthy of things or not, deserving things or not, things being used as manipulation. So that feeds into that a lot. Then the fourth hidden fear is that when you do nothing, everything will fall apart and nothing will work itself out on its own. And this is, oh man, this is just an exhausting fear in and of itself, because that means you always have to work. You always have to be doing something. You always have to be working towards something, and always be having to fix something or someone. And that can be such a pattern that you're in, trying to fix everything, trying to control everything around you. Because the moment you stop, everything will fall apart. And this comes so obviously from a childhood where things were chaotic around you. Your house was chaotic, your home was chaotic, and you were trying to fix everything by doing a lot of emotional labor that wasn't even yours to begin with. And therefore, now you believe that you still have to fix and control everything, because if you don't, everything will fall apart and nothing will work out on its own. Whereas the truth is, a lot of things will work out on their own, and a lot of people are very capable of figuring their own things out, and just kind of need your presence, or not even need it, but that would help. Just you being present instead of you wanting to fix and control. But that feels so scary, right? Because when you do nothing, you feel like everything will fall apart and nothing will work. And one that is related to that is that when you rest, you will be lazy forever. This is one that comes back so often, that I hear back so often, is that, but I feel like when I rest, won't I be lazy forever? Like, won't I just kind of slip into this pit of laziness where I will never get out of? And that is what keeps your system on the whole time, because you feel like if I choose rest, then it will be black and white forever. After that, I will be lazy. And it could not be further from the truth. We are wired to grow, to expand, to do things. And so when you allow your body to rest, it will rest, and then it will find a moment, or a moment will come where you will want to do things naturally. So this is not a realistic idea that you, when you rest, will be lazy forever, but it is a hidden fear that causes you to be hypervigilant, keep running, keep hustling, keep going, even when your body needs rest. And just not allow yourself to rest and do nothing. And then the fifth one is, no matter how hard you work, you will be betrayed, abandoned, and hurt. But you still do it. You still work so hard because you have to be safe. And you feel like the only way to be safe is to work so hard, but you don't really believe that it will matter, which is actually so sad, because it just keeps you working really hard and never really finding safety. But it might also be one that you're not very conscious of. And so you keep working really hard while also believing that it doesn't really matter what you do. Just saying that, the feeling that it gives me, I want you to know that that's not the truth, and that is not something you have to live with for the rest of your life. All of these 5 fears I had so clearly and were so present, and they're not present at all anymore. So there's so much that you can heal, and I don't want to come across as, I'm healed, I'm a perfect whatever. That's not it. I just want you to know that that's possible. It is possible to get to a place where you don't have to deal with these fears anymore. And knowing the root causes, knowing what drives them really, really helps. And having a very specific, targeted way of healing, somebody that knows everything about the fearful avoidant attachment style, and just having a very specialized path for this will make it go faster, will help you tremendously. If you have somebody, if you have a therapist that happens to be very specialized in a fearful avoidant attachment style, that's amazing. If you don't, I have an online program, Healed and Happy, which is completely specialized in the fearful avoidant attachment style, so you can check that out. But even if that's not your path, I just want to give you all of these videos just to make sure that you have everything that you need in order to heal, and to know that you don't have to struggle with this for the rest of your life. It's not who you are, it's just what you've been taught. So let me know whether this was valuable, whether you were aware of these or not. I always want to know in the comments. Let me know in the comments. And as always, I am so happy you were here, and I will see you in the next one.